Right. Hey, it's starting up. I think it's starting to start up. Yep, there we go. All right. So, welcome to Maya. Um, getting some lag there. There we go. All right. I think we're good. All right. So this is Maya. Um, you can do a number of different things. A little introduction to myself, of course, in case you don't know me too well or are new to my channel. I'm Neo Fletcher. Uh, I am a teacher and I'm a video game designer, also a graphic artist. So I know quite a bit about these little programs and I teach it really well. So I figured I might start it here on Mixer. And so far I haven't seen anybody doing like actual 3D modeling, and this is the closest kind of art that has to do with video games, obviously. So, I'm sure a lot of people out there want to know how to do 3D modeling for things like mods, especially now that you can do mods. You can even put mods into console games now and stuff like that. And making your own video games or whatnot, or even your own animations. Maya here does everything. It creates 3D models. It You can rig your 3D models. You can put the textures on them. You can animate them. You can animate a full movie in this, or you can burn the animation to the rig and bring it into a game, uh, into a um, sorry, I'm lost for words right now, into something like Unreal, a game engine such as Unreal or Unity. I prefer Unreal. That's what I mostly teach in because it's really easy to teach, and it's really easy to use, especially for even a beginner. So yeah, let's see what else. Yeah, so we're going to be going over the basics today, just the very basics. So don't think that after this lesson that you're going to know how to do like fantastic looking 3D models. Won't be able to do that. Okay, this is Maya takes a very long time to master. Um, it, it was well over a year before I actually started getting a real hang of it. And then once I got the hang of it, knew how to do everything, know where things are. I still don't know where everything is. Of course, this program is phenomenally huge. I mean, you can see all through here. Um, I mean, this is just one screen. I mean, there's tons of stuff that we can do with this. So, like I said, um, uh, we're just going to be going over the basics, basically, just where certain things are, how to start a project and a scene file, how to move around inside of Maya, how to create a sphere or a cube or things like that. Just really basic things that I usually start to cover in my 3D modeling classes or my 3D printing classes. Okay. It is overwhelming. Maya is extremely overwhelming, so don't be deterred by um, how overwhelming it is. Just get into it, playing with it, try things out. There's ways of resetting everything that you do, and I'll try to go over those as we go along through the interface. That's basically what we're going to be going over today is interface. Okay. Also, if you are watching live or happen to get on while live, you can ask me questions in the chat. I've got the chat rolling right in front of me on my other surface, so I can answer your questions and anything that comes along. So if I'm in the middle of a step, or even if I'm pretty far along into a step, and like say there's like some buffer or something, some lag, I'll go back a few steps to your questions if I happen to see it. Okay. I'll also allow questions at certain periods of time, especially towards the end, just like I would do for any typical class. I only plan on doing this for about an hour, but we'll see how we go as we come along. Again, this is just kind of like a pilot for my channel. Um, my channel will look way more decorative and everything once I fully got it done. I'll have commands and all that stuff, all the fun things that go with any kind of mixer channel. And Hopefully I'll have some kind of donation set up and even I might even look into, obviously, I'm not big enough to be partnered with Mixer, but there are ways of getting subscribers. So hopefully I'll get that going. If I get enough subscribers, then I'll be doing way more cooler type streams. One stream I want to start doing, I already have a few parts to the kit, is a Back to the Future DeLorean that's like it's huge. I mean, it's big. Like the size of like a remote control car. Um, I want to do it on Mixer. I want to stream me building it, but it's like $50 a month to build this thing because you get it parts once a week. So I can't really do that. But if I have subscribers, I could have enough money to do the whole project. You can watch me build it, and of course, any videos I do create, I will make sure that I put them up on YouTube so you can watch them later, um, including this one. Even though this is kind of a pilot, I will be doing this lesson over again later on. So if you want to watch it again later on, or if you want to tune in, might go over more, specific things or whatnot. We'll see. So yeah, let's get a start on this. So as you can see, this is Maya. It's going to look the same, exactly the same whether you're on a Mac or a PC. Of course, the only things that are different, of course, on a Mac, you don't have the upper taskbar up here. Well, you have an upper taskbar, but of course, it's the OS X taskbar where everything is flip-flopped and everything. And you don't have the drop-down menus inside the window. They're always going to be up like any other Apple program. Okay, so basically everything's in the same place. If the drop-down menu there just being inside the window instead of outside of it, everything else is exactly the same. As you can see, I always my taskbar, my Windows taskbar or tray or whatever you want to call this, on my justified to the left. I do that because most of the time, if I go over to the side here or down at the bottom or even up at the top, it's always opening this thing up. Of course, a lot of the art programs I use are right on the edge here too, which will bring up my menu as well. But there's always ways to fix that. I can kind of just adjust the size of my window here. And these are common little tips that you could do too, if you notice things are kind of getting funky or whatnot. See, I gave myself a little bit of a buffer right there. Just like so. There we go. So that way when I come over here, I'm not actually bringing up my taskbar right there, which I don't, oh yeah, you can see it. Okay. So yeah, here we go. Hopefully this doesn't get too laggy. I don't know if you guys are experiencing lag or not. Let me see if I can just stop my connection. There we go. That's better. Let's see if that fixes things. Again, this is just experimenting. So I sound good at least. I just turn down that volume here. Maybe adjust this to 480. Maybe that'll make things a little bit better. If you look down at the bottom of your mixer window right there, you'll see a little gear come up if you hover your mouse over the display. If you click on that, you can turn off latency or bring down the resolution to like 480 or something like that. And hopefully that'll get rid of some of the lag. But I am kind of working with a program that uses quite a bit of video. So hopefully it's not my internet connection. If that's the case, I'm gonna figure out ways of fixing this later on. I'm gonna rewatch the stream, of course, because again, this is just a pilot. I'm just testing things out, testing the waters here. So yeah, back to Maya here. So we got our top drop-down menu up here. This is going to be your basic stuff. We'll cover these as we go along, but I don't get too detailed into this top stuff here yet because it's pretty self-explanatory, some of them. But yeah, the biggest thing to take out is basically anything that you want to do button-wise down here, you can find in these drop-down menus. These are like kind of your go-to for your drop menus. Also, another thing, right now I'm in modeling mode. There's several different other models. As you can see, this little uh, drop-down box here. You can see there's modeling, rigging, animation, FX, rendering. It doesn't mean you have to be in those modes in order to do those specific things. All it does is kind of change up your drop-down menu to match kind of what you're doing. So if you're doing animation, you can switch over to animation. If you're doing modeling, switch over to modeling, so on and so forth. Okay, and that's going to bring up specific tools. That way you don't, they do so that way your drop down menu up here isn't super long. Um, Again, IA does a ton of stuff, so it only does so many things. I mean, you can only display so much at a time on the screen with how much it does. The next thing over here, this next bar, are kind of quick little buttons. You can see you've got a new scene, open scene, save scene. You got forwards and backwards, which are I mostly use hotkeys, which is Control Z or Control Shift Z, as you can see right here, or yeah, Control Y. Sorry, is to redo. Control Z is to undo. Also, you can just hit Z, and that also is the hotkey for undoing as well. You don't actually have to hit Control if you don't want to. But some other things here, kind of just kind of breeze over those. These things right here, these are for snapping. So like snapping to vertices, snapping to edges, or the grid. Sorry, this is the grid as you can see right there. Snapping to what's it called? Yeah, curves, verts, points, planes, and live objects. That's kind of a new thing. I don't know too much about live objects. It's kind of a, I don't know, it's more advanced kind of thing. So that's for snapping, for when you're moving things around. And I'll show you more about that in a later lesson when we have to start doing some modeling and things like that. There's a lot of times where we have to turn snapping on and off depending on what we're doing. And I'll go more into principles and things like that later on. The next thing up here, this is for rendering type stuff. We're not going to really go over that right now, maybe in a future lesson. But then over here, these are different tabs for our shelves here. And each shelf has got certain quick buttons that we can use. As you can see, there's ones for sculpting, ones for rigging, ones for animation. Yeah. Wow, this thing is really laggy. I'm wondering how bad the lag is on everybody else's end. Guess we'll find out eventually here. So yeah. So that's what these shelves are. They're kind of just quick buttons to get to certain things that are in here. And you can add anything in these drop-down menus to your shelf here. Okay. You can pretty much, I think, let's see here. Like if you click on something in here and yeah, I think you just right click on it. Whoa. That actually brought the menu out there. Let's see here. Let me do edit mesh to try this out. Right click on it. I know there's a hotkey combination to do it. Yeah. Yeah, there's a hotkey combination to do it. There's also I believe you can also go right into the little gear right here in the very corner, and you can use the shelf editor. That will also make it so you can customize, put the certain things on there. Actually, look at this. Is this it here? What is this right here? No, this is something else. But as you can see, these buttons do certain, we can create a sphere, a cube, a cylinder from these quick buttons here. And then we also have some other keys or some other buttons that we'll learn how to use in later lessons. Okay. The next part we're going to talk about is the viewing port. Okay, this is your viewing port, and as you can see, you have drop-down menus for your viewing viewport specifically as well. Okay, there's certain things that sometimes you'll need to change up in here, like lighting and things like that, in order to display what you want to see better. You can also turn off what objects are being shown in the viewport. This is especially helpful if you're building a scene, say like a short animated film, or short animation, or general animation in general, or you're building a level for a video game and you're starting it all in here. Um, Being able to go and turn off specific things can make rendering the viewport a lot quicker and easier, put less strain on system hardware, and also make it easier to find certain things and look for certain things. We also have rendering. Right now it's in viewport 2.0, but we can also turn on the legacy viewports. Um, and then we've got some panel stuff here. We also have several different buttons down here. The biggest ones you want to pay attention to is like this one right here is your grid, to toggle off turning on and off your grid. Okay, so if your grid's not on, that's the button you want to press to turn it on. Another one that you want to make sure of is over here. This is your wireframe mode, and then this is your regular smooth shading mode. You can also use your hotkeys. So hotkey 4 is wireframe mode. Okay. Hotkey 5 is going into regular mode. All right. And then you've got some other modes too. And you can also turn on this mode, which kind of turns on all of your edges, makes them all visible. So it's kind of like a wireframe shading mode. Okay. That's the most you really need to know about those. Again, you really don't need to know too much about stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here that you really don't need to memorize or need to know. I'm going to let you know just the basics and how to get around. So a lot of stuff will just pretty much get over after a while. Like you'll just kind of get zen and kind of blank out those things that aren't important to you and only focus on the parts of Maya that you truly need. Next part that we're going to talk about is your toolbar over here. Okay, so you've got your selection tool, then you've got a shape selection tool, a paint selection tool, and then you've got your move tool, rotate tool, and scale tool. Now, I never come over here and click on these things, okay? I always use my hotkeys. And you can look up handouts online. You can find PDFs on the hotkeys for Maya. If you want a specific if you want a handout on hotkeys that I can provide for you, just find me in Discord. I guess it's like kind of hard to say if I don't have Discord displaying, but message me either here in Mixer, or you can also contact me at neilfletcher@gmail.com. Okay, and neilfletcher@gmail.com, and just ask me for it, and I'll email you a link, or put it right into the email, the PDF right into the email or whatnot. Same with any of my other handouts. I might have something set up later on, either on my website or in the Discord, or I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but I might have a place to go where you can get handouts or things I have ready for lessons that you can use, like scenes, like files and things like that. We'll see as we progress along, see how successful this Mixer channel is, right? So I will let you know about those hotkeys, but the big ones that you really want to know is W for your move tool, E for your rotate tool, and R for your scale tool. And then Q goes right back to your regular selection tool. Okay, those are the three big keys that we're going to be using a lot. Again, there's so much to Maya that you need to use key combinations when you're going into certain things. And I'll get more into that again as we go along. But like just right-clicking and holding in the viewport area will bring up these menus here. Okay, and again, when we go further into modeling and things like that, I'll tell you specifically what kind of key combinations you have to get to certain things. Okay, and I'll repeat them. And again, hopefully I'll have handouts too eventually that'll kind of tell you what these things are and where to find them. Because again, I am teaching this at College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. I'm teaching 3D modeling and 3D printing and game design, not only to adults but to kids as well. I have youth classes that I teach there. We're gonna have a whole new summer program coming up too. So if you're nearby Glen Ellen, Illinois, check out College of DuPage, continuing education, our youth camps, or even our adult enrichment classes um, are great. And I'm an awesome teacher. Very fun. You'll love my class. Okay. So yeah, uh, those are our toolbars right there. Down here are our different viewing modes. Okay, this is our main viewport mode, the one that we're currently in right now. But we can also, if we click on this one, we can go into a four view mode. And as you can see, we've got perspective mode, a top view mode, a front, and a side. Now these are orthographic, meaning that they're flattened. Okay, they're not a three-dimensional space, meaning I can't rotate it. And we can zoom in and out and around. Unlike my perspective mode that I can move around in, which I'll get into again as we go along. The next part of this will be about how to move around in the viewport. Okay. But we also have a outliner mode. Boom, wamba, bamba. Okay. So this outliner mode, the outliner is going to basically have everything that's in a scene. Okay, whether that's a camera, a piece of geometry, anything. It's going to be in the outliner. So if you can't find something, you could find it there. The outliner is also good for like cleaning up your scene, making sure everything is named. Because anytime you create something new, whether it's a piece of geometry or a camera or whatever it might be, you need to name it right away. That's like a less something that I really encourage, I guess you'd say, or force my students to start doing in every single kind of type of class that I teach. Any kind of tech class, I should say, anything that's on a computer, where, whether it's creating a new document in Word, or um, creating a layer in Photoshop, or again, creating a new piece of geometry in Maya here, you want to name it right away. That way, when you look into the outliner, you can understand what it is. It doesn't just have a generic name. You're not clicking around trying to find where it is exactly. This is also where you can go in and group things and parents, like parent geometry or other objects to from one object to another. Like you can parent a camera to a piece of geo, or vice versa, or you could parent a piece of geometry to another piece of geometry. Kind of like poor man's wit, or a layman's version of rigging. Okay, and we'll again get more into how to do parenting and things like that as we go along in the future lessons. Okay, um, so there's that. Some of these other viewing modes are more for like animation and things like that. So I typically just stay between these three. You can also, if you just click your space bar, okay, I just tapped it real quick, it'll go back and forth between the main viewing port, the full size viewport, and whichever mode that you have selected over here on the edge. Okay, so if I go into the 4 mode here, I can actually, if I hover my mouse over my perspective mode, click my space bar, boom, it goes into full screen perspective mode. If I click my space bar again and go back into the 4 screen mode, if I hover over the front view, and click my space bar, boom, it puts me into the full screen of the front mode. Okay, so this is a really great way of getting around really quick. You might find that you need to be in multiple view modes simultaneously, um, depending on what you're modeling. The key thing to modeling here, and I'm going to probably repeat this again later on, is your comfort level as an artist. Okay, so that's what you want to make. That's the key thing when it comes to your viewport. What is comfortable for you? How can you view things comfortably and see things correctly? All right. Remember too that you're working in a three-dimensional space, and a lot of people, even though we live in a three-dimensional world, creating art in a three-dimensional space kind of boggles the mind a little bit. Okay, but how I'm going to teach you how to 3D model is going to make it very easy for you, and I'm going to let you know and warn you when you might be making some rookie mistakes here and there. Okay, I'm going to try to catch that. Now, I'm not going to always be there for you. Obviously, I can't be over your shoulder watching what you're doing there at home. So I'm limited to that. Unlike in the classroom where I can go around and let a student know when they're kind of screwing things up before they get too far along. Okay. Phew. Ah, excuse me. But um, kind of being aware of that is kind of a key thing. Remember, this is like a puzzle. All right, that's the best way that I can describe Maya and its workings or how to use it. Is well, for one thing. Phew, jeez, whew. Sorry, I've got sinus problems from living on a submarine, so I sneeze like all the time for no apparent reason whatsoever. So very sorry about that. Um, but yeah, the biggest thing going into it is, um, you know, making sure it's comfortable for you and moving around and knowing when things are going. Oh wait, I was already talking about that. So yeah, when you're making a mistake, you've really got to be kind of aware of things and remember that it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle game, is what it is. So you got to experiment a lot until you really understand a technique. Once you get the technique mastered, then you can start using it a lot quicker in your models. So when you first start modeling, you're going to be very slow. Okay, don't expect to be modeling very quick. Now I model very fast. And I don't. A lot of people say things like, "Oh, I started, um, you know, I haven't used this, thing in a long time, and I just picked up, and it was like I was just using it yesterday." Like, the analogy of, like riding a bike, right? So um, Maya is not like riding a bike. Maya is a pain in the ass if you stop using it for. Sorry, I swore. Oh man, so sorry. This is a family friendly. This is on family friendly right now, so I really apologize for using the A word there. Try to catch myself. I got the mouth of a sailor. Okay, so please excuse me. Sometimes I'm really trying to watch it for these family friendly streams. But like I said, uh, you got to look at it as a puzzle, and you got to experiment a lot. You're gonna be slow at first, but eventually you'll speed up when you get these techniques down. So there's a lot of trial and error that you're gonna be facing as you go along. And me, I get zenned out on this. Like I am on a whole nother level once I really start, going away at 3D modeling. Even gets to the point where I really can't. I like to 3D model during class so students can watch me model, but I get overly frustrated when they stop and ask me questions because I get so into the 3D modeling that I don't want to stop. So I I do have to. That is something as a teacher I need to break myself from, and I try not to do too much 3D modeling in class now because I do notice that kind of actually get openly upset, like, oh, what do you want? Oh, or I don't know, maybe not. I don't even sound like that, but like. I feel like my students do notice, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I just need," and I'm like, "Don't apologize. This is what I'm here for." Okay. Um, so yeah. Um, but you know, hopefully you can get along pretty well and move along with me pretty well through this. I will do like just free range modeling where you can watch me do modeling. I might go pretty quick. I will answer questions in chat, but like I'm not going to be purposely slow when I do like modeling things like that. Okay. And I'll talk more about those when I actually do streams like that or whatnot. The next part, more with the viewport here. Usually there is a little view cube here, and for some reason my cube is not coming up, and I couldn't get it to come up. I couldn't get it to come up for when I was at College page either, and I'm not sure exactly why the view cube's not showing. I don't know. Maybe it's something weird. Let's see your display, show. are you, ViewCube? Show UI up, head elements, heads up display. ViewCube right there. Boom. All right. Well, as you can see, I did. Let's see here. Yep, ViewCube is turned on, but it's not showing it, which is really weird. Okay, I don't know why it's been doing that. But usually there's a view cube here to kind of let you know where you are in space. Okay. It also makes it so you can switch over to like very front or back or whatnot. Other thing you got here is your compass. This is really important. It kind of lets you know where you are in space, in the viewport, in your 3D space. And also, it's really important to know these axes. Now you have to go back to your math geometry days here, okay? Now remember graphs, right? You have your x-axis and your y-axis, okay? The same thing, and because this is all math, you're working with a giant math program here. When you're working with geometry, well, geometry is a math subject, so it's the same here in Maya. You got your y-axis and your x-axis. Okay. Now we've got one more axis, and this is actually how they taught me in college how to remember where my axes are. Okay. So y is always going up, x is always going left and right, and then we've got our z-axis, which goes front and backwards, coming right out to you. Okay. So that's the best way to kind of remember it. You can use your fingers just like this. All right. And you're going to be rotating around in this space. Okay, so this compass here is going to be moving around, and I'm going to show you that in just a little bit too. Next, we have our channel box, and there's not too much that I can show you with the channel box yet until we make a piece of geometry. This is where we can go in and put in fine-tune adjustments, specific numbers for things like scale and where a piece of geo is located precisely, degrees of rotation, and other little things. We'll see those as we go along too. Another thing that we've got is the attribute editor, okay? And we'll get more into this guy a lot more too. But these two side panels here, the tabs for them are all the way over here on the right, okay? And again, these are things that we're going to be going in and out of quite a bit, is our channel and our attribute editor. One of these two should always be open. Most of the time, my channel editor is the only thing that's open. I only have my attribute editor open when I'm doing things like, adjusting things with texture or, other little things too that you only can adjust in the attribute editor. Now, if you started Maya for the first time, you might see channel box here, or you might just see the channel box, but you don't have the tabs on the side, and you don't see the attribute editor. Okay. Now, to turn on your attribute editor, you have to go up to Windows, okay, and attribute editor is right there. As soon as you click on that bad boy right there under Windows and in attribute editor, your attribute editor will come up, and you'll have these tabs here then, okay? And that should pretty much stay that way every time you open up Maya now. Okay? Maya's pretty good with keeping things pretty much the same every time you do things. Now, if you do notice that you've moved things around and everything's all jacked up, you can come up here to Window and go down to, let's see here. I believe it is editor layout here, and you can go in here and do single pane. You go into any of these, and it'll go back to its original way. I think there's also a way of like resetting them. But if you do lose something completely, remember you can always go into Windows and make them come back up. There's also display here too, which will also will bring back up certain things too. Okay, and we'll get kind of more into that stuff too. If you have a question about it, if you lost something specifically, you always can screenshot me and email me at neofletcher@gmail.com, or you can just if I'm in the chat doing a lesson, you can ask me how to adjust or get things back from there. Okay. Next down here are layers. Okay, we're not going to get too much into layers and basic modeling techniques that we're going to be doing. That's going to be more for like when you're doing animation and certain rendering techniques and things like that. Okay. And then down here is our timeline. This is specifically for animation. We will do a future lesson on animation, so you don't really need to worry about that too much, but that is your timeline down there. This is your timeline adjustment bar, so you can scrub through it. You can also grab it by the little squares here, and that will shrink and expand your timeline up here. Okay, and this is for the time that it's rendering. Right here is the maximum, the end maximum. This is what is the current maximum for the timeline, the current timeline view right there, this little strip here. And then the same for over here, where this is your minimum. You can actually make this go to negative numbers, and this is the minimum being displayed on the time slider. Okay. Sometimes you might have to go in and make this a negative number if you start an animation. You're like, oh no, like there's stuff that I wanted to start before this animation, or like I wanted this animation to begin earlier, or I want something to happen before before the part where I originally started this animation. So you might have to adjust that if need be. So yeah, and again, we'll get more into that later on. There's some controls over here too for the timeline here, like play and skip, from key to key and things like that. Again, we'll get more into that and what these buttons and some of this other stuff does as we get into an animation lesson. Now down here, over here is going to be basically every time you do a specific action, it's going to be displayed down here. I think it's on the side, the mouse script area right there. Okay. And then this area down here, that's the script editor. That's for doing specific things. We're not going to worry about that at all right now. But anytime you do something, like if you saved or you made some action happen or you switched to some tool, it's going to display it right in here, what you just did. So you can kind of see like, oh man, what did I do? You can always look down in this display area and it's going to say what the last action was, like the programming language. So it's kind of a good thing to know. And I'll point that out later on when I actually do some stuff. But another thing you can notice is down here at the very, very bottom, okay, is a describer tab, okay? So as you can see, everything that I hover over, we get a little pop-up box that says exactly what it is, okay? But also down here, we get the same message down here. So if you are trying to look for something specific, or you're trying to figure out what tool is what in here, this is where you can look down here at the very bottom right-hand corner, and it's going to tell you exactly what that tool is. So you actually have to like wait and hover there and wait for that little pop-up to come up. See that? All right, so you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, so kind of know where those things are. So that's like the basic interface to Maya. Okay, remember you got your top menu up here, which is going to have specific commands all throughout it. You've got your drop-down menu to go through different modes. Okay, you've got your quick buttons up here for snapping and saving and undoing. Those are like the most important ones you need to know about right now. Then you've got your shelves. You got your different tabs for your shelves. And oh, yeah, you can make a custom shelf too. This is still a new computer for me, so I still have to set up Maya a lot in here. Usually I have like my own custom shelf in here with certain commands. I've got way more in rigging here that has specific commands that I like to use specifically for the type of way I like to rig. And then also I've got an auto rigging program that I need to install into Maya that will automatically rig models for you. Not for game right away. There's a few adjustments you need to do to it, or make it for game, but maybe I'll have a future lesson on how to do that as well. Also, for years I've been supposed to have been starting to develop my own auto reading program that's built into Maya, but I kind of put it on the shelf until I could get a better computer. Now I have a better computer, so now I do it. So yeah, um, maybe I'll start working on that again sometime soon too. Um, but yeah, those are the very basics of Maya, the basic interface elements at least. Now let's talk about actually how to move around inside of Maya. Okay. Um, so to move around in the viewport, there's a specific button combinations you have to use. Always to move around, you have to hold down Alt every single time. Okay, you hold down Alt, and then your left mouse button, if you hold that down and move your mouse around, as you can see, that rotates. Okay, and if you hold down Alt and do right click, that's going to zoom in and zoom out. All right. Remember, we're holding the Alt key, which is right next to the space bar on a PC. On a Mac, that's going to be in between the Control button um, and the Command button. Okay. And obviously, any of the hotkeys that you would do in PC, Control S is to save, and OS X, obviously that's going to be Command S. Okay. Yeah, that's the only difference is the control and the command when it comes to hotkeys inside of Maya. Now, there's still a few other ways that we can move around inside of Maya here, besides just rotating and zooming in and zooming out. Well, we also need a pan, and this is where it's really important to have a mouse with a scroll wheel, okay? Um, because you need to use that middle mouse button. Not only can you zoom in and zoom out with the scroll wheel itself, but you can also, if you hold down Alt and hold down that scroll wheel for the middle mouse button, you can pan left and right, up and down. Okay? So these are going to be the ways that you actually move around inside of Maya. Okay? Now, when I'm modeling, I always accidentally hit that Windows button next to the Alt. Now, when I do that, I will go into it will let me do this move tool, okay, surprisingly enough. But as soon as I let it go, it's going to pop up my my start menu. Okay, so be kind of aware of that. If all of a sudden your start menu pops up, it's because you hit that Windows button instead of the Alt button. On Mac OS X, I'm always hitting the Command button or the Control button. The ones on either side of the Alt really drives me nuts. But it's something you get used to. All right, so that's moving around in and out. All right, now let's actually show how to create a piece of geometry. Okay. So I'm going to the first time I create a piece of geometry, I should always be coming up here to create. I don't want to use these buttons here right off the bat because these buttons are going to have defaults in. I don't necessarily want my geo to have right off the bat. Okay. So it's best to go here up here to create, come down to, and remember, if you don't see create right here, make sure you're in modeling mode right there. Okay. You want to make sure you're in modeling mode, and then you can hit create here. Go to polygon primitives. All right, we don't want to use NURBS. That's a certain kind of geo that's mainly used in like old animation, like old 3D animation, things like that. Things that we don't really usually use, especially not in video games. And I'm a video game designer, so I'm going to teach you how to model in video games instead of just plain old Jane animation. Okay, which is an advantage because video games geometry has to be very clean and low poly in order to work correctly or render nicely in a game engine. Whereas in animation, they can have as many poly faces as they want. They can be as ugly as they want. As long as it moves in Maya and it works, then it's good to go. But obviously, that doesn't work in game engine. So that's why um, I teach 3D modeling as if you're doing it for a game engine. It's going to be very clean. It's going to work across programs a lot better. It's going to look great, and it's going to run better, especially just for rendering an animation. If you have just you're not paying attention to how many polys you're using and you have ugly geometry, it's going to take way longer for it to render, like way, way longer. And it might not render correctly. Things might look bad. Things might disappear. Bad things might happen if you've got bad geo going on. So that's why I'm going to teach you how to do um, modeling um, like you're a video game artist, even if you're just an animator. Okay, so back over in your create, and we're picking polygon primitives. There's also volume primitives, and lights, and cameras, and curves, and even text. But again, we'll, certain things we'll go over in future lessons. Some things we might not cover at all, because we don't need to know all this stuff. But as you can see, we can create spheres and cubes and cylinders and cones and planes and toruses and prisms, and a helix is like a screw, okay, or like a spirally slide at a children's park, okay. And there's a lot of things that we can do with that, but there's a lot of things that go into these different pieces of geo. And as you can see, we got these like little boxes at the very right side of each name for these things. These are, and when you click on that little box, that's going to bring up the options, the option dialog box for that specific piece of geo. Or anything, you can see that these boxes come up in different areas too. This is going to bring up the actual dialog option box for that specific command that you just selected. Okay. So if you just click on it, otherwise, it's just going to create it right off the bat. But we want to open up that dialog box so we can see some information here. I'm going to click on cube, and that's usually what I make most of my geometry. Most of it starts out as a cube. Very few of it starts out as any of these other shapes. And I'll get more into that as we go along in lessons too. So we'll click on the box here, and as you can see, we've got some options here. Okay, and now this is saying how many divisions are going through the width, the height, the depth, the X, Y, and Z of it. Well, these are the scales of it. Okay, so right now it's a perfect cube. Is what all these are saying. And I could adjust these to whatever we want. And this unit of number can be anything you want. It could be, one could represent a foot, an inch, a centimeter, a millimeter, anything. When it comes to 3D modeling, you kind of want to get what that unit of measure is down, so that way, like if you're making a video game, say 1 unit is 1 foot, so you know that 6 units is 6 feet. When you build a character, they've got to be 6 units tall. If you're making a 6 foot tall character, okay. And like if you're doing this for 3D printing, right? You also want to make sure, you're getting your units down exactly, so that way when you go to print it out, it's the correct size it needs to be, okay? And we'll probably get into those into further lessons too. I'll probably have some specific lessons on 3D printing, okay? But next over here, we've got divisions. How many divisions can go into, and that's how many edges, all right? So right now, it's set to 1, 1, 1. So that means we're going to have just one face on each side of this cube. Or if I said for the width, if I said there's 2 or 3, that means we're going to see 3 edges, or 2 edges, right? Basically dividing the faces into 3 faces on one side of that. Okay, and those edges are going to go all the way around in an edge loop. And I'll show you more about that in a little bit here. The next thing that we've got here is our axes. Okay, and this is going to determine what axes this is going to be created on. So right now it's on the y-axis, but really it's just going to be right in the middle anyways. So for a cube, that doesn't really matter. But if we were putting down a plane, which way the plane is facing, whether it's facing toward the x-axis, y-axis, or z-axis, is going to be determined by a press of these being clicked on. Okay. This other stuff you don't need to worry about. You don't need to, just make sure that they are all tracked and everything, and just keep everything the same right there. You don't need to do anything to change that. Most you're trying to worry about is over here. So if any of these divisions are more than 1, bring this all down to 1, because we're going to start off with a plain Jane cube with no extra divisions. Now we do have a choice over here. We can create and apply. Create's going to close the dialog box, whereas apply is going to keep it open, and it's going to just create the cube, as you can see right there. Okay, so now we can go in, and so if we didn't make this cube correctly, we could always go in and make another one real quick and hit apply, and it'll make another one. Okay, but if you've already, I'm going to close that dialog box out now. Now, if you've already made this cube and say there's things that you like, oh no, there's things in that option box I wanted to change, or you did just click up here and it's got way more divisions than it's supposed to, well, check out the channel box now. I've got some information in here now. And most of this is pretty self-explanatory, right? Translate is where it is located in your 3D world you're creating. So right now it's at 0, 0, 0 on each axis, which is right in the very center. You see that because your grid centers right in the middle of 0, 0, 0. Okay. Also, you rotate, which is going to be in degrees, and then you've got your scale. Of course, that's any unit of measure that you want to create it, and visibility. You can turn your visibilities on and off. So, like, you can make it so like the cube disappears, but it's not deleted. It's just hidden. Okay. You can also do that in your outliner as well. But then you also have these inputs down here. Okay. Now, these inputs are only changeable right when you first create the object. If you start going in and doing changes like moving faces, adding in edge loops, pulling vertices, things like that, if you go in and try to change these inputs after that, your geometry is going to get really warped and look really funky. And I'll kind of show you that later on when we do some more things with modeling. But as you can see, if I want to add more divisions in here, I could do, well, let's try putting in 3 and hit enter. You can see it added 3 edge loops. Let's focus in on this. If I have the object selected, and I can tell that I have the object selected because it's all of its edges are highlighted green. They're all lit up in green. All right, so when I have an object selected, if I hit the F button on my keyboard, that's going to zoom in. It's going to focus in on that specific object. Okay, and as you can see, when I rotate around, okay, it keeps that piece of geometry in the center. Now, if I just move over like that, right, and then I try rotating around, see my center point from my camera has changed now. Okay, so this can kind of be a pain in the butt when that happens. So the best thing to do is to just simply click on the piece of geo that you want to focus in on, hit F, and boom, it'll focus right in on it. And you can do this with vertices and edges and faces as well. Sometimes it doesn't work really great, especially if you're working with really tiny geo. Like this is getting pretty close to being tiny. Usually you want to work above a scale of 1, like a scale of 10, something like that. You'll notice there's a lot of clipping problems when you're working really small like this. Okay, if you're making like a fork or a spoon or something, it'd be kind of a pain in the butt. But again, if you're using a unit of 1 as 1 foot, then you can use small. But again, it could cause some problems in the future. So you might want to say like 10 units is 1 foot, or 12 units is 1 foot. Like 1 unit is 1 inch or something like that. Might make things a little bit easier when it comes to clipping. Of course, then it might clip from things that are further away. So you kind of have to find a happy medium or find a good unit of measure that works for you. Okay, so as you can see, I can go in here and I can change any of these things up here. I used to be able to go in here and just hold down my right mouse button or my left mouse button and scroll back and forth to make adjustments. But for some reason, it doesn't do that anymore. I don't know why. But you can come in here and just change these up to what they need to be. Okay, and there we go. All right. Actually, let's actually keep some edge loops in there. Let's just do 2 for each way. There we go. So now, as you can see, each axes, we've got 2 divisions for each base. Okay. So that's our geometry. Now, to start manipulating our geometry, there's a few things we need to do. Remember our hotkeys, W, E, and R, right, to switch between our tools. So if I hit W here, I can turn on my move tool. And it's going to be, here we go, it's laggy, I mean. And as you can see, we've got our axes here. Now with our move tool, our axes, our the way we can pull them is always going to be the color of that axis. So our z-axis is always going to be blue, y is always going to be green, and x is always going to be red. But they might not always be pointing the same directions as our world. Okay, if we rotate around and manipulate our geometry, sometimes our axes for that, the local axes for that piece of geometry can be really messed up or screwed up. Same with vertices or faces. Okay, and again, those are things we'll go deeper into when we get into further lessons. But just be kind of to understand the color combination, the color codes of these tools is still very, very important. Okay, so as you can see, I can pull my geometry in whichever direction I want, and every time I pull it, it's going to change my translation here in my channel box. Okay, just like so. But then we also have some other things in here. If I go to the middle here, see I've got this middle square right there that turns yellow when I hover my mouse over it. Click on that, see it stays yellow once I click on it. This is to move around the geometry in all axes. The problem is that it's in reference to your viewport. So whatever angle you have your viewport switch to, okay, it's going to move it from side to side on the viewport. So if I move it like this, well, it's still moving it outside over here. So like here, if I do like this, move this over here. Now, it might look like I'm moving it side to side, but I'm also moving it back out into the background over here. Okay, so as you can see, it's over here. But if I go and I move this over here like this, now if I look up, as you can see, it went diagonally across. And that's because my camera from my viewport for the perspective mode is at an angle. If I want to make it go flat across, then I have to try to get this puppy exactly straight, and hopefully I'll keep it, you know, on one axis the same, but it's not guaranteed. Okay, if you want to move it around like that, well, something new they put in a few versions back in Maya is these little squares right here. If you click and hold on one of these squares, as you can see, two of my axes turn yellow. Okay, see watch the y-axis and the z-axis are going to turn yellow when I hold down my left mouse button. That means it's only moving the cube in those two axes. The z-axis is staying the same. Okay, let me just angle this a little bit so you can see that. As you can see, the x-axis does not turn gold. It stays red, and it's just staying on that same level. Okay, so like as you can see, if you look at the grid, if you look at this dark line right here, when I move it across, going back and forth, it's not moving in the x-axis direction whatsoever. It's just it's just only moving in the x or in the z and the y. Same if I go and go to any of these other ones. So see, I've got this guy here. This next one here. This is especially helpful if you're like designing a level and you're moving like boxes around in a room or chairs. You can move things around and not have to worry about them sinking into the ground or going up into the ceiling. Okay, so very nice. So that's why you want to use those. Now, if we go into one of our other view modes here, like our side view right here. Now I can, in my side view, I can actually use this the middle direction here and move this all around, and it's okay. Because again, it's not in it's an orthographic view mode, so it's flattened, so it's not going to move in the x-axis at all. So you could either grab from the little square here or in the middle, and it's still only going to move in those two directions only. Okay, so that's kind of helpful to know as well. Sometimes it is a little bit easier to model in one of those orthographic views. Okay, and we'll get more into that when we do some more modeling stuff. Okay, a few more things that I'll show you before we end this lesson is our different modes to manipulate geometry. Now I'll go over this again when we start doing basic modeling techniques. But to get into those, oh wait, let me show you the other, two other tools that we have too. So that was the move tool. We also have the scale tool. As you can see, scale tool looks a lot like, oh sorry, actually we'll go to the rotate tool next. So we got W for move tool, E for rotate tool. So rotate tool looks a little bit different from our scale tool, or our move tool, or our scale tool. Okay, those look pretty similar. All right, so it's pretty self-explanatory how the scale tool will work. If you learn how to use the move tool, the scale tool works exactly the same way. It just has squares instead of arrows down. Okay, everything works exactly the same. Same if you're in an orthographic view, it all works the same. But the rotate tool works a little bit differently. And as you can see, because again we're working in a three-dimensional space, it's a little bit, it's just different a little bit. So for these, you actually have to go in and click on the actual line. And as you can see, there is a little bit of, it does show kind of in an off coloring, the degree of change that you're making when you're doing the rotate. And again, it's only going to rotate in those specific directions. All right, just like that. All right, now if you want to do that general rotation, kind of like for the move tool or the rotate tool, we've got the middle position there to do kind of a quick move like this, and that's like a big no-no when we're in perspective mode, like I was just telling you. But like in our scale mode, we could definitely pull that to uniformly scale. That is not dependent on your camera. Okay, you can pull these out, and these will stretch out as at whatever direction you're doing. But in your rotate tool here, if you want to do just that general rotate, kind of like what the middle button does for our translate tool, or the middle part of our tool, see how we have this light blue circle going around our little rotate tool sphere? Okay, if you click on that bad boy, okay, that's going to rotate it around in that general, again, dependent on the angle of your camera in the viewport. Okay, so this isn't something you exactly want to use all the time, but you never know. It might come up. All right. Now, right now, our geometry is really jacked up. We've got it rotated and pulled and stretched and all kinds of stuff. But if you ever want to go back to the original way it was before, you can always come over here to your translate and say, hey, I want it to go back to the center again. As you can see, I highlighted all of these. Let me show you how I did that again. Click on it. Highlight all of these like so. Since they're all highlighted, I don't have to hit delete. I can just hit in the number that I want to change it to. So if I hit 0, it's going to go right back in the center. Same with our rotates. If I highlight all 3 of our rotates and hit 0, boom. It goes back perfectly straight the way it was before. Now the stretch is going to be different because obviously scale, 1 unit is what we want to stay at, right? If we make these all go to 0, well, now we're going to have nothing on our screen. The geometry is still going to be there, but it's going to be infinitesimally small. Like it won't be visible at all. It'll be hidden geometry basically. So you want to make sure that if you are zeroing this all out, only zero down to rotate Z, and then the rest of this, highlight, put in 1. Boom. Now we have our geometry right back to the way it was before. Okay. So that's the most I'm going to get into. I'm not going to get into actually how to start manipulating edges and things like that, or vertices. I'll do that in another lesson. But basically, if I hold down my right click, as you can see, there's an edge mode, a vertex mode, and a face mode. Those are the 3 modes. I know there's more here, but those are the 4 main modes that we're really going to focus on the basics for 3D modeling. Okay, and we'll get into those later on. All right, in the next lesson. Well, maybe not the very next lesson because I'll probably repeat this one once I get things down a little bit better for my stream, channel, what I have to like bring down in order to make Maya run efficiently to stream it. But um, I will go over those a little bit more in detail. Also, like again, you might be very overwhelmed already at this point with Maya and what I'm doing in here. Hopefully, it doesn't look too bad either. Like in the channel, um, hopefully there's not too much lag or too much choppiness. I'm kind of looking over on my other surface and I see it kind of screws up every once in a while. Um, so hopefully I can like fine tune some stuff to make it run better. Um, but yeah, the last thing I want to show you before I end today's stream is actually the very first thing you want to do when you start up Maya. Now, Maya is not like your typical program. You can't just go into it and start up a scene and start working. Okay, you have to create a project folder for everything to be saved to. Every folder has to be saved in there some way, somehow. Okay, so um, you have to create a project folder first. Okay, and then whenever you start up Maya, when you want to start up a scene, you have to first open up the project folder first, and then you can go to open scene and start your project. This makes it so Maya knows where to save things, where to find things. So like when you do like open scene, it's gonna go to the scene folder inside the project folder. Okay. Um, if it's gonna do renderings, it's gonna save those rendered images in the image folder of the project folder. If you have textures, most of the time you want to have that in a texture folder or um, source images folder, I think it's actually called. Okay, so let me show you how to set that up. Okay, so this is what you're going to do the very first time you start up any new project in Maya. Okay, you're going to open up, and obviously I wouldn't have this piece of geometry here. Of course, if you did go into Maya and just start off creating a project right off the bat, you can still save this out as long as you create a new project for it, or set a project to save it into. Okay, so the very first thing, as soon as Maya opens up, you're going to hit File, and then you're going to come down here. You're going to do Open Scene. Okay, that's what typically most people want to do, or they go into their project folder and go to the Scene folder and then double-click on a scene. Okay, and open up Maya that way. Don't do it that way. You can't do it like that. It's not like other programs. All right, if you don't set the project, then it's not going to to save it, and it's going to save it just some mysterious place on your computer. Probably the actual like program folder for Maya. It's going to save it into, and then you're never going to find it, and you're just going to slowly start building up this file full of crap, and you're going to wonder why is my hard drive so full? I don't even know where any of this stuff is, and it's going to all be stuff that you just keep accidentally saving out. So again, the first thing you want to do is not work up here. You want to come actually down here towards the bottom to the project area. As you can see, we've got project window and set project. Okay, we want to do project window when we're first setting up a project. After we've created one, if we're opening up one that we already have created, then we want to do the set project. All right, so let's go through the steps of actually opening up a project or creating project folder. So we're going to pick project window here, and eventually the dialog box should come up. There we go. All right. So in this dialog box, as you can see, I already got some stuff kind of started in here. But if you want to start a new one, you want to click on New right there. It's going to allow all of these things to be editable now. So you can actually come in here, and this will be Mixer Lesson 1 or Mixer Lessons. There we go. Yeah, we'll add a number. I always like putting numbers at the end of it. Now I got to say where I'm saving it to. So right now it's set up to go to my Google Drive folder in my COD into modeling and rendering. I might not necessarily want it to go there. So if I click on the folder right next to that, okay, it's going to bring up an Explorer pane. And this should be pretty much the same whether you're on a Mac or a PC. Okay. And then we're going to go to, I'll go to my Google Drive folder. I'll keep it in there. And I'll just create a new folder. So I just right click, that's all I did to bring that up. Click on new folder. Also, there's buttons up here. This is also the new button folder right there, the one with the asterisks above the folder. Okay. And I'm going to call this Mixer Geo. Or no, Mixer Projects. There we go. And then actually, we don't have to double click on it or anything like that. All you have to do is hit select. You can just have it highlighted and hit select, and it's going to automatically do that. You don't have to actually go into the folder itself. Okay. Now these are going to be the different folders that it's actually going to create. And you can change the names of these folders if you want, but generally speaking, just keep them the way that they are. Okay. When we get further into lessons, I'm going to tell you exactly where to save certain things into for your for certain things, like when you're doing animation or if you're designing a character, things like that. Specific files go into specific folders, but right now we don't need to worry about that. Okay, that's really all you need to do though, is name it, name the project. This isn't naming the scene the actual scene, okay, the actual file for the geo that you're doing. This is just naming the folder that it's going to be living inside of on your computer, okay? And then this is the location of that folder where it's going to save it to. So that's really important too. A good rule of thumb is if you're not sure where to save it, just save it to your desktop. You can always move it around later on, okay? Once you get those two things entered right here, you don't have to do anything over here. You can just hit accept. Boom. It's now, project's now set, okay? And I can actually go over and take a look at my project here, or into my Google Drive folder here. Open that guy up. Come on, let's go Windows. Did I? Come on. What's your problem? Open up. Oy vey. Oh, there we go. Watch. A whole bunch of windows are now going to open up like crazy. Okay, so Google Drive here, Mixer Projects right there. And as you can see, there's the project folder I just made. If I go into that, okay, boom, check it out. There's all these folders here, okay, the ones that we were just all listed before. All right, now the scenes folder right here, this is where your actual scenes for your project's actually going to be saved. So like all your different geometry scenes are going to actually be saved inside of here, okay. So that's kind of good to know. But since we have the project set, it's just going to automatically save to there. Yay! All right. So, yeah. That once we set that project, then we can come here to File and do Save Scene As. Okay. Brings up um, our Explorer pane right there. As you can see, because we have our project set, it's automatically going into our project folder, into the scenes folder where it's going to save it. So all you have to do is literally just name it. That's all you have to do. So this can be like first mixer lesson, or here we'll do lesson. I'm going to think of this. Pilot. I don't think I'm spelling pilot right. There we go. Sometimes I have brain farts and I spell things wrong because my brain likes to excrete to me. I don't know the spelling. I'll just spell it wrong just that one time for no apparent reason. And I won't remember how to spell it correctly until I keep retyping it over and over again. I don't know what it is. Weird brain fart thing. So pilot, mixer, lesson 1. Just like that. Again, numbering it so I can have different versions of it. Do save as. Boom. Okay. So now it's saved, and it's gonna have the name up here. Okay. Let's give it some time to let it save out quick. Still saving. Still saving. Oh boy. Hopefully it didn't just crash. Oh, there we go. Alright, there we go. It saved it. It was a lot of work, but it did it. So yeah. So as you can see now, it's all saved out and it's got the name coming all the way through. Okay. You can see the name right there. All right. So now I'm gonna close out Maya. I'm gonna show you um, how to reopen a project that you've already created. Okay. So there we go. All right. So I'm gonna go to my start menu here, and I'm gonna turn on Maya. Maya always takes a really long time to start up because, of course, it's a pretty powerful program. So it takes a lot of things that need to start loading up. Upload just delete. There we go. That's a good sign. We can dance if we want to. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. So yeah, a little bit more about myself too. I used to be a submariner, or well, once a submariner, always a submariner, right? I used to serve on the USS Alaska. It's a ballistic submarine. Um, I was a chemistry engineer. I was single-handedly in charge of the chemistry in the nuclear reactor on the submarine. Um, I added chemicals to it, did all kinds of cool, crazy stuff. Uh, yep, worked in the engine room mainly. Did a lot of cool stuff. So, what I'll occasionally do in some of these is give sea stories, tell you a little bit about living on a submarine. Really cool stuff. People really enjoy hearing my stories. Kind of tell you how it was. If you've got questions, I can answer some of them too. Not all of them. There's, obviously it's a national security type deal. Talking about submarines, classified information. So I can tell you what I'm allowed to tell you, but I will not tell you classified information no matter what. Even if it's in a private message or anything like that, I do not want to go to Leavenworth. Okay? So if we start tiptoeing into things that I'm not allowed to talk about, I'll definitely let you know, hey, sorry, I can't tell you that. All right. If you bug me though, I will I don't know, tell you to shut up. All right. So this is Maya when it's first open. I just clicked out of that OK screen, that little pop-up box, that intro box. Kind of annoying. Don't really want it. But yeah, once I clear out of that, the next thing that you're going to do, okay, and this is any time you're going to use anything in Maya, you have to start it from the start menu, okay, or from a shortcut or something like that. Do not double click on a scene folder, okay? That is doing it the wrong way, all right? The next thing you want to do, as soon as you open up Maya, is go to File, all right. And if you want to write these down, these steps down, it's probably good to do, and then like on a post-it note or something, and keep it near your computer, so that way you can look and see these steps every time, um, to make sure that you're doing it the right way until it becomes second nature to you. Okay. It usually takes students a very long time to do this. The last 3D modeling class that I taught, none of the students till like the very last class, one of my students actually remembered how to do it correctly the first time round. Okay, so again, you're going to do File, and this time instead of Project Window, you're going to do Set Project. You're going to set which project you're opening. All right, and it's going to go to your Explorer pane here. Say if I had to find that. that project folder, right? Like, oh, here I'm gonna go to my desktop. I know it's in my Google Drive folder, so I'll go in there. Oh, there's that Mixer Lessons 1 folder. Okay, go into that, and you can tell that you've got actually selected the folder when you see all of these folders in here. Don't actually click on any of these. All right, if you want, this is going up one folder right there. Okay, just click on it and hit set. All right, so now it's set. You're not done yet, obviously, because you're not seeing anything yet, right? It's still blank here in the viewport, but your project is set. Now Maya knows which folders to go to on your computer to open up your scene or get any other information. All right. So next we're going to go to File and we're going to do Open Scene. That's the second one down there. Boom. It goes right into our Scenes folder, and look at that. There's Pilot Mixer Lesson 1 right there. So we can go and hit Open on that. Even though it's an untitled scene, obviously we don't have to click Don't Save. It's going to do that every time just to let you know. But at least it warns you, so that way you don't accidentally get rid of a scene that you wanted. It's always going to let you know. So yeah, you can see that that command's right down here, the status of what's going on. So it says right now like file read in 0.93 seconds. Okay, anytime you do an action, this is going to be the response to that. Sometimes there will be errors too. So when those things do come up, like if it comes up in a lesson, I'll try to point that out down here. That it's giving that warning down here. And boom, look at that. We've got our cube right there. Okay. Now that wireframe mode that I was talking about right up here, see how now I've got these nice lines. The edges are being shown even though I don't have the geometry selected. So sometimes it's nice to have that on. Okay. Sometimes you might have to go into full-fledged wireframe mode. Okay, to see see behind things or see through things or whatnot. Okay. Like I said, I'll get way more into that stuff as we go further along in lessons. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're going to end it. Again, if any of this confused you, rewatch the video if you can. You might want to watch it a few times. I'm also going to keep it in my YouTube channel, so if you ever need a review or a refresher, you can always go in and watch this. This is the pilot one, so I don't know how long I'm going to actually keep this one. I might redo this lesson completely over again with the right settings so it's not so laggy and choppy. And then I'll probably just get rid of this current one. But for now, I'll keep it on YouTube so it's still viewable until I really got the channel going and I feel ready to delete it. Okay. So yeah, that's about it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and Mixer here. Also subscribe to me on YouTube and Facebook. Facebook, it's www.facebook.com/VoidVane, VoidVane, all one word. On YouTube, I'm not good enough. Not good enough for for the to have my name, my actual channel name at the end, so it's really screwy. But here in Mixer, there is the hyperlink. Click on the little YouTube logo. It'll take you straight over. It's called VoidVane also, all one word, VoidVane, spelled the same way, on YouTube. Generally, people have a hard time finding VoidVane in YouTube by just doing a search, or at least I do. But of course, there's that link there. And then, just about anything else, you can find me via Neo Fletcher or VoidVane. That's going to be all. I hope you all have a great night. Let's see here. Normally, of course, I would go and host somebody, but I'm still kind of, what the hell? Oh, let me see here. I should figure that out right now anyways. So, yep, let's go ahead and host somebody. let's see here. Who is on right now? Let's see. I know I saw Dee Dee on here earlier. Let's see, is she still? Let's go ahead and host her. All right, bye everybody. Wait, what did it say? Oh, all right. So I'm gonna get off of here. Once I get off here, I'm gonna host Dee Dee, Dee Dee Marie, and yeah. So I'll see you guys later on. Hope you like this. Let me know any way you can, either in the chat here or message me in some other fashion, Discord, whatnot. Again, this is like the pilot show, and hopefully I'll be a little bit more organized, actually have some graphics up on the screen, make it look all nice or whatnot. But yeah, yeah, that's about it. So I'll catch you guys later. Um, take her easy.